What's going on? It's time for another episode of Too Hard for the Radio, transmitting from the future free state of Greater Idaho. I am the one armed madman. With me today, we've got Kevin Mohair. Kevin, pleasure to have you.
I appreciate you having me on, man. Thank you, Nick.
Yep, absolutely, man. Seems like you've had a kind of an abnormal entry into the tech industry. How did you get started? And give us the lowdown here.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to say I didn't start out in tech. It wasn't something that was really on my radar, man. I was just trying to find something to do, honestly. I don't want to say I was lost. Like, of course, like I had a job, I was working, but it was like this isn't enough, man. I can't make it doing this. There's a podcast or yeah, a podcast on YouTube called Tech is the New Black. Um, and I was watching them and some of them made sense, some of them didn't, but I wasn't really sure. And then I ran across this dude named AD. He actually went to school in my hometown here in Texas. His name is AD. And he was just explaining, man, like tech is not that hard as you think it is. Cause I'm thinking like, man, you have to be like a genius to get in tech. You have to be doing this since you was 5 years
Hmm.
old to really kill it and just know it. It's like a undiscovered language that nobody knows, man. So that's what I was thinking, but he broke it down. He made it sound so easy. And honestly, since I've been doing it a lot more, it's not as hard as it seems.
Yeah.
Um, honestly, man, I just went all in on him. I did my research. I talked to him. Um, I got into it, man, and been doing it ever since.
Like tech is no different than any other job in a lot of ways. It's not about like what you know, it's about who you know and how
100%.
capable are you of selling yourself and networking with people. So like I lived in San Francisco for like 5 years and I was kind of under the same assumption as you about like tech people. It's like, these people are aliens. They understand computers and they understand all
Yeah.
this crap and that I don't get. I never, I'm a two-time college dropout. I ended up going to college after I got hurt. I got paid to go. I would never pay to go at this point. Like I knew it was a scam,
Right.
but I got paid to go.
Right.
So I was like, I'll go and see how the sausage is made. But anyways, like when I was living in San Francisco, like I'm around a lot of these, tech people. They're coming into the bar that I work at. And at one point I was like, these people aren't that smart. They're not that capable.
Right.
Like I was pretty close to
Right.
somebody who was an investment banker at Goldman Sachs that like knew nothing about economics and didn't really know anything. And like
Right.
she went to a good college and got a degree in business, but essentially like all of her upward movement in the industry came through who she knew. It wasn't about what she knew
Right.
because she didn't know a lot of shit. I remember at one
Right.
point she told me like she had a couple canned lines to get her out of meetings that she had no idea what was going on with, like they'd be talking about investing this and investing that, and she'd be like, "Huh, have we considered the tax implications on this?" And be like, "No, we haven't. We should probably look into that." And it's like, it's one
Right.
of those
Right.
things
Yeah, I could
where
have
I
said
I
that.
kind of realized it's just like anything else. And my co-host Dan is in the tech industry. He's been in for a long time and he's a smart guy. I'm not trying to discount anything, but like a lot of what he does is through connections. It's not really through
Right.
like his actual skill at like he's working on AI agents and stuff like that. And he's not a programmer. He's a
Okay.
businessman and business
Right.
is business no matter if you're working, in bars or, in tech. Like it's kind of all the same thing.
100%. I 100% agree, man. It's all about the network. And really the biggest part to get past is like it's okay to not understand.
Yeah.
Like ask people. They're there for that. Ask. So yeah.
Yeah, it's, as long as you're willing to learn and like willing to, admit when you're ignorant to something, like it's
Yeah.
some of the best people, the most successful people in the world are the ones that are capable of surrounding themselves with talent. Like I'm wearing a Black Sabbath shirt right now. Like I'm a big Ozzy Osbourne fan. Like the one
Okay.
thing that
Yeah.
Ozzy did better than everybody else was surround himself with talent. There's
Mm,
been a ton of bands that broke up and the lead singer goes and does a solo career and you never hear those records. There's tons of great bands that I listen to where some of the lead singers have made solo records that I've never heard of,
Right.
and
Yep.
Ozzy, what he was capable of doing was surrounding himself with talent. He was able to bring in Randy Rhoads, and when Randy Rhoads died, like he never should have been popular after Black Sabbath. Like that's just,
Mm,
it was lightning in a bottle. They created something incredible, and when it dispersed, that should have been the end of it. But no, he was able to like surround himself with Randy Rhoads, and his wife was a great, producer and networker, and was able to be popular
yeah.
again. And then Randy died. And it's like, well, how are you going to continue this thing without this guy who made you great by, in your solo career? And then he was able to bring in Zach Wild and make even more music. And he was popular until the day he died, and that was like, sure, he was very talented. Like, there's no discounting his talent, but like one of his greatest talents was surrounding himself with talented people.
Yeah, yeah, and as you go through life, man, you kinda start to realize that, like, really is there's not a lot of people that are that much smarter than you. They just surround themselves with good people who are typically smarter than them or just know stuff that they don't know and ask questions.
Yeah. And, like human civilization is built on specialization. We don't
Mhm.
have like back in the day, they used to call people who knew a ton about everything
Yeah.
polymaths. It was, somebody who knew
Hmm.
about science and biology and religion and all of these different things. They would call them a polymath, and they were very smart, incredible people. And we don't really do that anymore because our entire economy, our style of production, our style of business is all based on specialization. You don't have one guy in the company that handles the technology and the money and the business aspect of it and the networking and, getting investments. Like these are all specialized positions where people are good at their specific portion of the job. And when you put them all into place, you can make something great. Like there's a book or something out like about this that's called like, if I remember it right, it's like no single person can make a toaster, you know, because
Mhm.
when you got a toaster, you've got to get all the minerals and the products to make it, and then you gotta send it to a factory, and one factory makes this part, another factory makes this part, another factory puts it all together, and then another person sells it, and then another person
Yeah.
transports it, so, like, by the time you get your toaster, it's been touched by 1,000 people, and
Yeah.
that's kind of like the deal with the way our economy works, with the way our production style works is, like, you have a specialized position, and as long as you're great at that, you're capable of fitting into an organization of people that is capable of creating something great.
100%. I 100% agree with you, man. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, tell me a little bit about the business that you're running now.
Yeah, so, I'm still, on my way to becoming a professional developer, RPA developer. And for most people who don't know, RPA stands for Robotics Process
Okay.
Automation. Um, Honestly, to put it in layman's terms, simple terms, it means just using software bots to handle repetitive computer tasks.
Okay.
That's all it is.
So it's kind of automation in a way.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Excellent. Yeah, I think a lot of people are confused about the difference between automation and artificial intelligence at this point.
Mm,
Like I think that it's funny, like, when I started this podcast, like, I've been a big sci-fi reader for many years, so, like, artificial intelligence is something that I've been interested in a long time. Not so much, like, the
right.
nuts and bolts aspects of it, but, like, the esoteric aspect, like, is this thing gonna be conscious? Are we gonna give it rights? Like, what's gonna happen when these things are able to create themselves? Like, the big questions, not so much, like, the day-to-day minutia of it, and there was very few people, like, on Podmatch, the site that we met on, that
Mhm.
were, like, willing to discuss these things. Like, it was mostly web developers and, just different business people that fit into tech that are trying to sell their product in one way or another. And, as soon as, like, ChatGPT came out, like, all of these people ended up being AI experts all of a sudden. And
Right.
just imagine they're all saying the exact same thing, AI and data
Right.
analytics and all of this crap. And like when you talk to
Yeah.
some of them, like I've kind of stopped having them on at this point because like I'm not going to do the same podcast over and over with the same guy with a different face. And a
Right.
lot of it, like what they're talking about is automation, like we've had
Mhm.
robots that put cars together in factories for decades at this point,
Right.
and those
Yeah.
aren't like artificial intelligence robots. Like these are just robots that are capable of automation. You program a
Yeah.
task into them and they do the task.
Yeah. Yeah. So the easiest way I would explain the difference to people who don't really know is kind of what you were saying. Automation is just bots that follow rules and repeat tasks. AI makes decisions. That would be the key difference. So they can work together, but they're definitely not the same.
Yep, sorry, I had to mute myself there because my dog was going crazy for a
Oh,
second.
good man.
Yeah,
Oh,
I've
good.
got let me see if I can I've got I've got a robotic hand here that I can't wear
Oh,
right now
wow.
because I gained a bunch of weight and it doesn't fit anymore, and as an amputee,
Really?
yeah, you kinda have to keep your weight in a 5 to 10-pound range, otherwise these things just don't fit anymore. This is like hard carbon
Wow.
plastic essentially, so it doesn't stretch, it doesn't really give
Gotcha.
you too much leeway, so I can't really use it right now, but it's,
Wow.
they when I got the thing, they called it machine learning. So what happens is it has like these, I don't know if you can see it, but there's like these little metal things inside that are
Uh-huh.
electrodes essentially, and they
Okay.
press up against your skin, and as you flex your stump in a certain way, it's able to pick up the electrical signals that are coming from your muscles, and it's able to create a pattern
Wow.
essentially. And as you wear it, it kind of refines the pattern and is capable of seeing it. When you plug it into a computer and look at it, it's actually kind of cool. It kind of looks like, when on an old school like stereo where you had like all the ups and downs of the amperage and like all the different, I don't even know what they're all called, but you could see like
Yeah, I know what you're
the
talking
the
about. Yeah.
it does that essentially, and it's able of like
Oh.
taking those patterns and kind of deducing what you want it to do. And when I got the thing, they
Oh,
called it
wow.
machine learning. They were like, yeah, this thing it has machine learning. So essentially, like every day you put it on, you hit this button, you go through the motions, and it refines the pattern a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And
Oh, wow.
now I had it rebuilt about a year ago, and they put a new operating system in it. Now all of a sudden, it's artificial intelligence. It's not machine
Oh,
learning
yeah.
anymore. Now it's artificial intelligence. And it's like, well, what's the freaking difference? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Yeah. Nobody explains that. They just say the next cool lingo. Oh, yeah, it's AI now. It's yeah, man. But that's amazing, man. I mean, and then when I start to think about stuff like that, then I just go down like a rabbit hole. Like I'm into sci-fi movies as well.
Yeah.
And it's just like you start thinking, man, like, is it gonna be the Matrix in the future? Like what are the what's the stopping point for AI when it gets too intelligent? Like, what's the what's the end result, man? And it's just like, I guess we just deal with it when we get there, man. I don't
Yeah.
even know what to say. Yeah.
My thought is like we shouldn't even try to make something that's conscious. Like I don't think, and like I'm not really a fan of these large language models in a lot of ways. Like
Mhm.
I use them quite a bit. Like they're very useful for certain tasks, but when you
Mhm.
have a conversation with it about things that you know a lot about, you realize that it's not as smart as it's kind of
Yeah.
billed to be, and it kind of
Yeah.
makes you take pause with asking it questions that you're not too sure about the answer because like I'm into sci-fi and I'm into dirt bike racing. I was a dirt bike racer when I was a kid, so like I like watching
Okay. Yeah.
motocross and supercross racing and stuff like that. If you have a conversation with it about motocross and supercross, it doesn't get a whole lot of it right. Like you can start to see the holes in like
Mm.
what it's talking about and you go, "Oh, okay, so maybe when I ask it about other things, like I'm not seeing the holes." And a lot of times, like it's kind of like a fallacy machine in a way. It's an appeal to authority machine because so like the other day I'm into like ancient civilizations and shit like that too. So like
Yeah,
younger dryas
yeah,
impact hypothesis, Graham Hancock, all that stuff I'm interested in.
yeah.
And I asked
Same.
it about the age of the Sphinx, and it kind of just like poo-pooed the idea that it's older than the scientists and archaeologists say that it is. And I kind of realized it's like, oh, okay, so there's so much written in scientific papers about this that say that it's this age. You know what I mean? And the
Mhm.
stuff that is kind of poking holes in that kind of exists on the internet and podcasts and stuff like that. So it's it's going to the authority rather than the people that are trying to poke holes in the authority. So in a way, it's kind of a fallacy machine because it's relying on all of the scientific papers and all of the data that could be wrong at this point. So it's that was kind of
Hmm.
an interesting, revelation for me. It was like, oh, this thing is kind of just like a fallacy machine.
Okay. Yeah, I've never really I think I've thought about that a little bit, but I've never really broken it down like that, which makes sense. Because if you look up something you don't really know and you get an answer, it's like you're just gonna go with that
Yeah.
because you think it's right. But if you really know some stuff about it, then you look it up, it's kind of like, oh, you left that out, or
Yeah.
you didn't say that. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, huh.
Yeah, it's
Huh.
interesting, right? And like I've been writing a sci-fi book for a long time and I use it for that because man, it makes it makes like research so much easier with some of this
Yeah.
like high level science stuff and shit like that. Like
Yeah.
I read like a lot of sci-fi books while I listen to them on Audible, but like some of the people that I listen to are they know so much about so much and they've written these books, before AI existed and they had to do all of the research themselves rather than have
Yeah.
something that's able to like condense it. And man, like I read some of the stuff now that's older that came out like before AI did. And it's like, man, you must have spent like 30, 40 hours doing research on this and it came out to a paragraph. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So like the amount of
Crazy.
time that it can save you is really cool in a lot of ways.
Yeah, yeah, 100%, man. When you think about it like that, it's like even back when I was in school, like 10 years ago, man, I'm thinking like, dang, like all those math problems, all
Yeah.
those science questions, if I just had ChatGPT, man,
Yeah.
I promise you I would have probably had a 4.0.
Yeah. It
You
came out the
know, so
last year that I was in college and, I used it a lot. And, like, I'm not great with I'm not great with grammar. And, like, kind of my way of going through college is like, I'm gonna put as least amount of energy into this as I possibly
yeah.
can because I know it's bullshit and it's not gonna, like, do anything for me in the future. So, I'm gonna cheat as much as I possibly can and, like, put as least amount of work into it as possible. And I started, like, using ChatGPT for shit. And like I remember I was talking to like one of my professors about something and I was kind of bitching about like grammar and this and that. She's like, "Oh, you should just use ChatGPT." And I'm like, "Oh, I do. I absolutely do."
Right, right.
Don't
Right,
run
I
this
did
thing
that.
through a cheat bot for me because I'm going to be screwed if you do.
Yeah, it's over. It's over. Plagiarism 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I
My
did the same
problem with
thing.
it is it would change everything that I wrote because, like, I have a certain style of writing, and I'd been writing in that style for, the entire semester, so if I, like, come in with a new style of paper, like, it's gonna be very
Yeah.
obvious to the person reading it, but then at the same time, I was thinking, like, I don't think they even read a lot of these papers that are
Yeah.
written because, God, like, one of the things that drove me nuts about college was like, dude, some of the stuff that I had to proofread for people, and like I said, I'm not great at grammar, like
Mhm.
I never learned it as a kid, so you know,
Yeah.
maybe a
Yeah.
6 out of 10 if I'm being generous essentially. And like I would read some of these papers and I would be finding problems with grammar and like, man, some of the stuff was just written at like seriously like a 6th or 7th grade level. Like I remember reading this paper at one point that was about like it was like the only interesting class that I took. We were talking about it was a class based on like Greek mythology and plays, and it was like fate versus free
Mhm.
will and stuff like that. It was really interesting. And
Yeah.
like one of the papers that I had to read was like the Greeks lived in the past, and in the future we look at the past for answers about the past that we can apply for the future. And it was just like this horrible fucking thing, and I had to read this whole thing and I'm like,
Uh,
"Oh my god, this was written by a fucking 6th grader." And I get through and like every sentence has like an annotation in it, like this isn't a real sentence. You said nothing here. Like I swear to God, this was like a 3-page paper that said absolutely nothing. It was just like talking about nothing. And like I
Yeah.
just totally ripped this girl. And at one point I was like, this has to be an ESL student. There's like no way that this person spoke English like when they grew up. And I go up to the top and
Right.
it's like the most white girl of white girl names ever. And I'm like, oh wow, this is really bad. And like I got to the end of it and I turned it in and like 20 minutes later I was like, "Oh shit. I like really ripped this girl way too hard and she's going to
Yeah.
complain and I'm going to get in trouble." So I had to like send a CYA email to like cover my ass from the professor.
Dang. Man, that's tough.
Yeah, it was
That's
brutal.
tough.
It was brutal. Like, you did not miss anything by skipping college. It is just dude, the college that I went to, the main campus is in the same parking lot as Walmart, and, like,
Yeah.
they don't teach you
Yeah.
anything about entrepreneurship, they just teach you how to be a manager. So, like, my joke was like, "Dude, they're training the next generations of managers for Walmart in the same parking lot, and they're just shipping us over."
Right. Production line, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But essentially that's what I feel like that's all school is. It just trains you how to be a worker.
Yeah,
That's it. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, man. Like, even dude, the high school that I went to was awful. Like, they didn't teach us shit. And my
Yeah.
teachers hated me and I hated them. And I didn't want to be there and they didn't want me there. And they still wouldn't let me go on homeschool because they have to collect that money every day. Every day that
Yeah.
a student comes in, they get paid for it. And like, dude, most of my
Yeah.
teachers like hated kids. You could tell they hated kids. They didn't have kids. So it's like, what are you doing? What are
You're
you
right. Why are you here right
yeah.
now?
I saw
Yeah.
I saw something recently about like they took a bunch of kids out of school and
Yeah.
just like took them away from normal teachers and they had them learn with AI for like 2 or 3 hours a day and then they put them
Mhm.
out into recess and like had them learn life skills like the boys would learn construction and the girls would learn like home ec type shit and some of them would do construction whatever it was like they were just teaching them life
Yeah.
skills and like letting them play and shit and they started testing 90% above normal schools.
90?
Yeah. All they had to do was get rid of the fucking teachers.
Yeah, I mean, if you're relying on teachers, man, it's like you just have to hope they have a good attitude and they really like kids. I mean, but how often is that gonna happen? People need money, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah. I was at my
cool.
buddy's house, a couple months ago, and he's got younger kids, and, I was just going off on teachers, and I was like, "Don't give your teachers an ounce of respect. They don't deserve it. They're not impressive people.
Yeah.
They've never done anything to contribute to society, like, they're not teaching you shit. They don't know anything about the real world. They could never survive in a real job, like, do what you have to do to get through it and get out of it, and
Yeah,
like his wife was kind of like, "Oh boy, like this is a
right.
little bit more than I bargained for." And like the next day my
Right.
buddy called me up and he was like, "Oh dude, my wife was freaked out and then we talked about it after you left and she was like, "You know what? He's kind of right, actually. Like they aren't learning
Yeah,
shit."
yeah, 100%, man. I 100% agree with that. I've talked to people, I've talked to teachers. I honestly think, even though school wasn't bad, I was quiet, I got my work done. Man, it's a waste of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a waste, bro.
Yeah. So you said you were into sci-fi earlier. What kind of sci-fi are you into?
Yeah, yeah. So, honestly, I've watched a podcast. I watched the Joe Rogan podcast with Graham. I've went down a rabbit hole. I try not to do that. You know what I mean? I don't need to be up to 4 or 5 in the morning
Yeah,
and
no
got to go to
shit,
work at
right?
6. You know what I mean? Yeah. Thinking, how can I escape the matrix, man? I like the TV shows. I love watching TV. Altered Carbon was a great show.
Oh yeah.
Are you seen it?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I
Oh
was kinda
man.
bummed with the 2nd season. Like, I've read the books, and, the
Yeah.
2nd book in the series was really
Mhm.
good, and they skipped
Oh, was
that.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was like they found, like, a wormhole, and they went in and found, like, this alien ship that had been circling some star for thousands and thousands of years, and, like, they got into a fight with some other alien ship, and essentially, like, all the aliens had been dead on it for, thousands of years, and these ships were just, like,
Mm.
stuck in this loop where they would meet up at one point and just destroy each other with faster than light weapons and all kinds of crazy shit, and then they would go
Wow.
back on their way again, and, like, all the automated machines that had been around there, like, kind of rebuilt the ships and they skipped that one for TV, which kinda makes sense because, like, that's gonna be really expensive for, like,
Mhm.
CGI and stuff like that, so it kinda made sense
Yeah.
that they skipped it, but they kinda went from book 1 to book 3, and I don't know, I wasn't as impressed with the 2nd season as I was with the 1st. Like, the 1st season was so good, and
100%.
I like seeing
100%.
what, like, and dude, like, the guy that he was working for in the 1st series was such a real character. It's like, this is what a rich person would do if they
Yeah.
had that technology, and, like, it was kind of almost like this is like what Jeffrey Epstein would be in, 500 years or something like
Yeah.
that.
Right, right. Man, it was the first no, I agree with you though. I didn't really like the second. It was okay, but the first was like I remember I had a big TV and I was like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
like this is amazing, bro."
yeah. I've watched it a couple of times. It's so fucking good. Did you ever get into Stargate?
Not really. I think my dad was kind of into that. I think I tried maybe. I don't know.
They just
I don't know.
Amazon just announced that they're putting out a new, like, season of Stargate in the next coming years. They're gonna use the same people and shit, so you might
Oh
have to
yeah?
catch up on that one. It was a cool show, like,
Okay.
it was you're how old are you? You look like early 30s maybe?
28.
28, there we go, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and, so it's a little bit before our time, um, it was one of those shows that didn't really have access to CGI, so they did a lot with, like, real effects and puppets
Yeah.
sometimes and just, like, cool costumes and shit like that, and the stories were really cool, like, and it was one of those like, back in the day, man, they were able to do, like, it was, like, one of those shows that had, like, 22 episode seasons. So,
Yeah.
like, after 10 seasons, they've got, or 12 seasons and 3 different shows, they've got, like, 300 plus episodes, so it was a cool
Yeah.
show, and I'm excited to see what they do with it now, but they're, definitely not gonna have, the same amount of episodes. It just costs way too much to make that. Did you watch, The
Right.
3 Body Problem?
Three body problem. Is it on Netflix?
Yeah.
Man, that sounds so familiar. I don't think I have.
Oh,
Maybe
you
I
should
have.
check it out. It's really good.
Three body
They
problem.
actually so they did a Chinese version. It was written like, the book was written by a Chinese guy, and it's about, like, it's kinda
Gotcha.
like a War of the Worlds type story, but
Mhm.
like, War of the Worlds kinda sucked, like, the aliens were allergic to water or something stupid like that, like, one of those dumb
Right.
things, but, like, in this one, like, dude, they have, like, I won't give it away for you because it's such a cool story, but, like, they have crazy technology, and they live in a system that is, like, has 3 suns, and their
Mhm.
planet kind of, like, rotates, like, orbits one of them. But, like, there's I guess, like, there's a mathematical problem with 3 bodies where you can't ever, like, accurately predict what the orbits are gonna be. So the
Mhm.
civilization ended up, like, going through cataclysm after cataclysm, and they were able to, like, dehydrate themselves and kind of hibernate in between, like, bad times where their star system would
Oh,
be,
wow.
like, burned or
Wow.
frozen or something like that. So, like, they
Yeah.
were always restarting civilization, and then they end up, like, finding Earth essentially through, radio telescopes on Earth where, like, some Chinese woman who it also it goes into, like, the Cultural Revolution in China. So, like, it
Mhm.
has to it has to do with, like, one of the main characters, like, grew up in the Cultural Revolution, and, like, her dad was killed in public, and, like, she just hated humanity at that point, and, like, she ends up, like, getting a hold of the aliens, and, like, she gets one message from the aliens, like, "Tell us where you live," essentially, and then some, like, good alien that lives on the same planet, like, sends another message like, "Do not tell us where you live. Like, if you tell us where you live, we are gonna come and we're gonna destroy you." And she was like, "Yep, give me some more of that," and like kind of told him
Oh
how to
yeah.
go. So it's like it's a really cool show. You should check it out.
Oh yeah. I'm definitely gonna watch this right after this.
Yeah,
100%.
it's fucking great, man. Like some of the solutions that he uses for like technology and how they're capable of like keeping us from being able to like put up a good fight against them was really fucking creative, like super creative. I remember reading the book and I was like, holy shit, like I don't know how people think of shit like this. It's just wild.
Yeah, it's interesting how some people minds work. Like, what made you think of that? Like,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, it's crazy. I'm gonna check that out though right after this for
Yeah,
sure.
it's definitely worth the watch. I think it's only like 8 episodes or 10 episodes or something like that, so it's not like a huge investment in time where, like
Super
Stargate, if
long,
you wanted
yeah.
to catch up on Stargate, you're looking at like 3 months of your life.
Right, right. All those seasons. I think I watched Stargate Atlantis though.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
Yeah, yeah. That
Okay.
one was good. It
Yeah,
had
yeah.
Jason Momoa in it and
Okay, yeah.
couple other people. Yeah, it was when he was young. He was, like, young and kinda thin almost. When you, like,
Yeah,
look at
yeah.
him now, the dude's fucking huge. But
Huge, man.
yeah,
Huge. Okay, I'm gonna
yeah.
check it out. Okay.
So, tell me some more. What else do you got going on? How's business going? How are you liking your new life? Like, man, just having I can relate to just having a normal job. I worked in
Yeah.
bars for a long time. Like, I started out as a waiter when I was like 18. I moved to Southern California after I graduated high school, and like, back then, you could have a decent life, like, working as a
Yeah.
waiter. Inflation wasn't out of control, like, it was there was still inflation, but, like, I had a decent life, like, me and my buddies rented, a house together, and we were able to, like, have fun and race dirt bikes and kind of just, like, have a cool life. It
Mm.
wasn't, anything extravagant, but, like, you had fun. Like it
Yeah.
was, cool. And, now like even, the last bar job I worked was in like I guess like 2014 or something like that. And like I was doing well. Like I was making six figures working as a bartender in San Francisco,
Okay.
but like
Yeah.
six figures in San Francisco is dog shit. Like you can't really
Right.
do anything on that. And like me and my ex-wife were like looking to buy a house in Northern California, like outside of the city. And like, dude, you couldn't find anything that was in
Right.
our price range. Like you even go back to like houses that were built in the 70s and they were still four, five, $600,000. And it was like, there's no way we're ever going to be able to like buy a house in this area. And if I like want to go work at a bar outside of the Bay Area, I'm not going to make the same money that I'm
Mm.
making in San Francisco. So it was kind of this like just jacked up position that you're in where you're like living a decent life, but not what you would want it to be. And in order to take that next step, like there was no upward mobility for me in that
Yeah.
position. Like if you become like I was making more than the assistant manager or, assistant
Wow.
general manager at my bar. So it was like there's no you can't go and work your way into management because you make less fucking money than you do as a
Right.
bartender. And, the gap between working at a bar and owning a bar is massive. And like 60 to 70% of bars fail in their first year. So
Yeah.
you're looking at like a crazy, risk position that you're putting yourself in. And every bank in this country and will give you a loan to go to college when you're 18, but not a single one will give you a loan to open up a restaurant when you're
100%.
25 and you don't have any collateral essentially. So like I ended up getting into electrical line work. I didn't want to do the tech thing or the entrepreneur thing. Like it just wasn't for me. So I got a
Yeah.
job like, I put myself through electrical lineman school and got a job and ended up hurting myself, which, sucks, but shit happens. And
Yeah.
like, now just working and this was in like 2014, 2015, but like now today, if you're working as a bartender, you're fucked. Like
Oh yeah.
you're not moving up in life. You're not able to do the cool things that I did when I was 18. Like you're just getting by. You're probably overextended on your credit cards, you can't afford a nice vehicle, like, you're just in limbo essentially, like working a normal job. There's nothing there for you.
Yeah, 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 it's tough, man. So I still work a 9 to 5 right now as I'm
Yeah.
trying to become a professional developer. Luckily, I made some I don't wanna say the best decisions, but I made some good decisions where I stacked up some money, lived with the parents,
Yeah.
so I'm not living check to check. I couldn't even imagine that, but, life has been good, man, going in a better direction. Like I said, working my way up to becoming a professional RPA developer, having a great mentor, connecting me to people, getting outside my comfort zone, going to places, talking to people, man, it's honestly made a big difference.
Yeah. And like, dude,
Yeah.
another one of those things that like people make you think is harder than it is like investing your money. Like, people want you to think that, like, "Oh, you can't invest. You're too stupid to invest your money. You don't know what you're talking about. You have to have" like, I remember at one point I saved like 30 or 40 grand when I was working in San Francisco, and, like, to me, that was a lot of money. Like, I never thought I'd have that much
Yeah,
money saved when I was,
right.
18 or 19 or something like that. Like, that was just
Yeah,
unattainable at the time,
yeah.
and, like, I went into a Charles Schwab, and they basically told me to get fucked and come back when I had a $500,000 or something like that, and at the time, it was
What?
like, well, I guess I'm just, screwed, and I can't really invest my money because I don't know what I'm doing, and for
Yeah,
some reason, like living in San Francisco in 2014, I never heard of Bitcoin or anything like that. I didn't know anything about gold or silver or anything, and like there's things that I could have done with my money at the time that would have been, a lot better than just saving cash that I was making at
right.
this job. But it was one of those things where if you didn't go to school to be an investor and, didn't have the money, you were just kind of screwed and you were out.
Yeah,
And like, looking back on it now, like, if I knew then what I know now about, like, economics and investing, like, I woulda just stacked, money working at the bar that I was working at. I woulda bought gold or silver or Bitcoin, and, like, that money would have been worth a lot today, a whole lot today
man.
because, after COVID, inflation has put everything through the roof essentially,
Yeah,
and, you know, like, normal people working normal jobs just don't freaking look into this type of thing. They think that it's too much and it's too difficult to understand, and they just kind of resign themselves to like, "Well, I'm screwed, so I'm just gonna continue doing what I'm doing."
yeah. Yeah, man, that's such a tough life to live, and then you're stressed, and then it messes up relationships because 'cause you're taking the stress out on them. Um, Man, that's so tough, but I would've done the same thing. I would've kept saving money. I hear people say today or even a couple years ago, like, "Man, you shouldn't really save because inflation and the value of your money is going down while sitting in the bank," but my thing is, it's like, yeah, that's true. There's better ways to put your money, but my thing is, like, you still have to have a reserve of money to do things,
Yeah,
like, regardless if inflation is causing it to go from a dollar to 80 cents or 60 cents, it's like, I still need money saved
yeah.
up, like, you know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah, you gotta have
mm,
like a safety net that you can, dip into when
yeah,
times get tough. You gotta get, like most people don't have health insurance at this point because the medical system is just screwed. So you get in a car
yeah,
accident or something like that and you gotta go to the hospital, like that can just wreck somebody. But there's like one of my buddies that I do the podcast with, he's my other I have two co-hosts, like we do rotating weeks essentially. And he's a Harley Davidson mechanic, which, 30, 40 years ago, that was a great job. You could
yeah,
start a family, and if you had, your wife worked a part-time job, like, you could survive on that, and that was a good career, and now it's just a job, where you're
wow, yeah,
making 20 bucks an hour if you're lucky, and, he's trying to do, like, what you're talking about, like, I've gotta have a certain amount of money that is liquid that I'm capable of dipping into if I need it, but at the same time, like, I have to start investing and looking out for my future because, like, just holding dollars over the years like, I remember I saw this video, I've told this story on the podcast before, but it's worth revisiting, where, like, this couple found like a box in their grandfather's attic that had like 40 or 50 grand in it. And they were so excited. They're like, oh, so happy that grandpa saved this money and he was so smart to hide it and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, your grandfather screwed you. And it probably wasn't his fault. He probably just worked a
Yeah.
normal job and saved as much cash as he could. But like, if he would have bought gold with that money, instead of just leaving it as cash for however many years he was saving it, you'd be a millionaire or you'd have a couple 100,000 bucks. Like he screwed
Yes.
you. It's not smart to do that at all.
Right. 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 100%. Yeah. Yeah. When you think about it and break it down, it's like you could have been retired. You could have been
Yeah.
investing in making the money explode even more. Like, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's a tough life out there for people. Things aren't going to get any better any quicker, like every new administration is going to print more money than the last. Like, the two-party system is really it's just a facade. Like they
Yeah.
like to argue about a couple of issues that don't really matter to people's lives, wha- gay, straight, trans people, this and that. And like these issues don't really affect anybody. Like those are just issues to keep people arguing and keep people at each other's throats, while the real issue is like how much money are you printing every year? Who are you giving the money away to? Like how much are you devaluing the currency? You know, like I was telling my buddy recently about like Harley Davidson is like I would bet money that in the time that you've worked for Harley Davidson, that your wages have not matched the upward mobility of the price of a Harley Davidson. Let's for shits and giggles say
Yeah.
that an average Harley was 20 grand when you started there. Well, inflation has put that $20,000 Harley up to 28,000 or 30,000 at this point in the 5 or 7 years that you've worked there. But your wages aren't going up at that same point. So like inflation is good for a lot of companies, because they're capable of making more profit off it. Like the billionaires, they love this system. Like I remember I got in an argument a while back with somebody about like we were talking about Bitcoin and we kind of just got into it about different things and I was like, they just launched like an ETF and all the billionaires are all in on this. She's like, oh, it doesn't matter. The government's going to crush it. And it's like, well, A, they can't, but like let's just put that aside. You really think that the government has more power in this country than the billionaire class? Oh, of course. It's like, well, dude, you're gone. Like if the billionaires decided that they didn't like this system, it would change immediately. Like there's just
Yeah.
the billionaires are who gets people elected.
For
And
sure.
the billionaires love this system because, you have they decide to print more money. Oh, we're going to print another $1 trillion for this and that. That money gets distributed amongst the billionaire class and the big companies in the form of zero interest loans or subsidies or tax breaks. Like they get the money before me and you get access to the money. We don't get raises every time that they, you know, print a big chunk of money. But these, billionaires are able to take that money as soon as it's printed. They're able to buy up assets. They're able to buy gold, silver, property, Bitcoin, whatever they want to buy, stocks. And then 6 months, a year down the road, all of those prices go up because inflation takes a while to bake in to the actual price of goods. And, they make money on everything. So they love this system. And like, if they decided that they didn't like this, like for them, taxes, it's all it really is a shakedown fee. Like, okay,
Mm.
you're our protection racket. It's a mafia. The mafia used to go around and we're going to protect your business from the criminals. You're going to pay us a shakedown fee, essentially. And like, that's all this is.
Yeah. Yeah. I 100% agree. Um, Yeah, I was thinking about that too. So before I got into RPA, I thought about that and I was thinking like, what can I get into? Like, I'm not trying to be a billionaire. I just want to live a good life,
Yeah.
maybe leave something, or not maybe, leave something for the family, for the kids, maybe for the kids' kids, and get up out of here, man. So my thing was like, okay, I can't get a trillion. I probably can't get a billion, maybe not even a million. So let me get, I just want a little cut of it. Can I get 100K? Can I get
Yeah,
200K a year and just live my life? So that's another reason why I got into RPA, man, is
yeah.
time and money.
You know, the American dream was never to become a billionaire. It was never to be the next Jeff Bezos. The American dream was to have a nice house, a family that you could take on vacation once or twice a year, a nice, car, maybe a pickup, a boat if you're doing real well. And that was it. Like that's what
Yeah,
normal people wanted. They weren't I need to be the next Jeff Bezos, like, or Elon
yeah,
Musk. It was like, I just want to have a decent life where I can enjoy myself, where I can give my kids a chance to do better than I did and like have some fun along the way. That's all people really want, Like
yeah.
that's all I ever wanted. I never cared about being the next billionaire. Like that's why I didn't get into tech when I was living in San Francisco or anything like that. I decided to be a lineman, which is, a six-figure job, but like you're not going to get exorbitantly wealthy working as a construction worker. You're going to have a
Right.
nice life. Like I wanted to have dirt bikes and a boat and go on vacation once a year. Like that's all people really ever wanted.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That sounds perfect to me. I mean, I don't know, man. These just thinking about becoming like a millionaire, billionaire. Honestly, I don't want the problems that come with it. Like I know a lot of people think that's
Yeah.
freedom, but I think so many problems come when you get to that point. It's like I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah. I was, working for one of my buddy's dads at one point. He was a construction worker, and he was the first person that ever talked about money with me. Like,
Mhm.
I was probably 22, 25 years old, something like that. Like, I was a piece of shit back then. I was a drug addict, and I was, like, trying to get my life together, and, it was a
Yeah.
nightmare, but, like, I was broke, and he started, like, talking to me about money, which was just crazy to me because, like, back then, this was in, like, the early 2000s, like, nobody talked about money. They didn't talk about how much money they made or what they did with it, and, it was one of those things where it was like more money, more problems for him. It was like, I've got this much in a savings account. I've got this much in an investment account. I've bought I've got this many properties going right now. Like, I don't have enough money to finish this property while working on this property and also like continue to race dirt bikes with my kids. And like, I remember just like thinking, like, wow, like this is different than I thought it was. Cause like my parents never talked about money. And like looking back on my lifestyle as a kid, like my parents fucked up a lot. They spent a lot of money on things that we couldn't afford and they used credit cards to do it. One of my buddies has a friend that is working as like a debt consolidation guy where he finds people that have low credit scores and high debt that essentially like can't afford their lifestyles. And he calls them and says, like, look, we can take your debt from this credit card and that credit card and your house and your car, and we can consolidate it. We can offer you a deal where we give you, 10% off essentially, and you'll just make this payment every year. And everybody's into it because
Mm.
like every person that they call are fucked, essentially, for lack of a better word. They're fucked. They're in over their
Gotcha. Yeah.
heads. They don't have the money to continue their lifestyle. And every one of them, he says, is all in, like, yeah, let's do this. Like, I want to get on top of my finances. I need to you know, like change my lifestyle a little bit and this and that. And everybody's all in until he tells them that they have to give up their credit cards. And then they're like, well, if I give up my
Mm.
credit card, then I can't afford my car payment. I can't afford my insurance. I can't afford to live in the house that I'm living. So essentially, like, I have to completely change my lifestyle in order to do this. And they're like, "Yeah, man, like that's what you have to do. You can't afford to live the lifestyle that you're living right now. And if you don't change something, you're going to be screwed and you're going to leave your kids with nothing." And people aren't willing to give up their lifestyle. And like I get it, you don't want to have to sell that house that you worked hard for. You don't want to have to sell that new pickup. But like a lot of times like I've got a family member right now who like it's my, an aunt and an uncle, and their house burned down in Lahaina, and they're living here in Idaho now. They rented an apartment, and they bought a brand new car, and they're going on vacations, and, like, my uncle has been in Maui for, like, 6 months, being, like,
Dang.
a teacher, like, at a school, and my aunt's sitting here, and they have a brand new Toyota Tacoma, and she just went out and bought a brand new 4Runner. It's like, why do you need that? You're here by yourself. You already have it's the same car. One of them has a shell over the bed and the other doesn't. And
Right.
like you 2 don't need 2 vehicles right now. So like why are you doing that? And I there's no answer for it, and it's just it sucks, People are freaking screwed right now and it's not going to get any better anytime fast.
Yeah, it's such an interesting dynamic, man. Like people without money think they need the money, and then people that have money don't know what to do with it. And it's like, man, like if I had that money, I would do this, but would you? Would you really? Like, would you really know how to manage it? It's a very interesting thing, man.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really know about it yet because I haven't gotten the money yet,
Yeah.
but I guess we'll
Yeah,
we'll
we'll
see what
see,
happens,
right?
man.
Do you have,
Right.
like, a specific product in mind that you're trying to build, or is it, you know, still kind
Yeah,
of
it's not
figuring
a
it out?
specific. Yeah, yeah, definitely figured it out going around different industries. So I would say the industries that can use automation the most, honestly, is pretty much any company with a lot of manual labor. But the big fields, I would say healthcare, of course, insurance, finance, like the big industries, I would say really need it. I think they're behind, stuck in the past. So any company like that, man, I think could definitely benefit from RPA.
What type of robotics are you looking into? Is it stuff like, like I was talking about earlier with cars, how these, this big arm that kinda like, what type of robotics are you looking into?
Yeah. So um, yeah, I guess you could say that that's more computer based.
Yeah.
All of it's really computer based. They might
So
be
more
a little bit more
virtual than,
advanced.
like, a physical, like, robot type thing?
Yeah, it can be physical too. Of course, you got to type in the computer the codes and stuff like that. RPA is not like coding. It's like a very, very light coding or no coding at all. So of course, if you know coding, you can build better dynamic bots. But for RPA, you really don't need coding as much. So yeah, you can build like an arm that rotates and moves and does all that. Um, yeah, kind of like I said, man, just any industry that needs it. Like I said, healthcare, insurance, any business with a lot of manual data work.
And I think that people I think there's a lot of buzz around AI right now, but I think what people really want is automation, not artificial
Yeah,
intelligence. Like they don't want something that is going to think and figure something out. Like they want something that's going to do a specific task quicker and more accurately than a human.
right, right, 100%. I agree with that. Yeah, a lot of people that I talk to actually, that it's funny you say that. They always say AI, man. I need AI, and it's like,
Yeah.
no, you don't necessarily need AI. You need automation in your systems just to repeat the repetitive tasks that you don't really like to do. But AI is kind of a little bit different. So I try to explain that to them. Sometimes they don't really understand, but yeah, you're right on that. It's not AI. It's RPA.
Yeah,
It's automation.
it's a lot of just buzz, and like you said, people
Yeah.
think they want AI because it's what they're told that they need at this point, but,
Yeah.
and I think that, right now, these chatbots are very open, not open in the sense of, um open coding or anything like that, but open to where they're capable of doing a lot of different things and it slows it down
Mhm.
and it makes it less accurate. The more that you require to do, and also it requires a ton of energy, to be able to
Yeah.
do all of this inference and all of this data mining and to train these models takes a shitload of energy. Where, if
Yeah.
you have something that's far more narrow and designs for a specific task, it's not going to take as long to do. You're not going to have to pump as much inference into it. You're not gonna have to pump as much energy into it. And, like, I think that's what we need. Like, I there's a guy that I listen to on the internet called, his show's called Science and Futurism with Isaac Arthur, and he says, like, his kinda thing on AI is keep it narrow, keep it dumb, otherwise you end up under Skynet's thumb. And, like, I think that's
Mm,
a great way to look at it is, like, don't allow these things to go crazy. Keep them
yeah.
narrow, keep them designed for a specific task, and like we're going to be fine. Where, once you start trying to make these things conscious and pumping all this energy, like, A, we don't have the energy. And like we talk about this on the show all the time. So I won't go into a ton of detail on this, but like we don't have the energy to train the next generation or the AGI or something like that. And like it's really freaking hard to build power lines, to build power plants in this country for tons of different reasons. And like I think and my co-host also thinks that like it's probably going to be easier to build these data centers in space in a lot of ways than it's going to be more expensive, but in a lot of ways it'll be easier like with this heavy, big rocket that Elon Musk has. Like you're going to be able to build stuff in space in the near future and like right now, man, it takes you years and years and years to build a power plant and power lines for a data station. Like it's like a lineman. I firsthand saw that like our electrical grid in this country is falling apart. So like we don't have the people to rebuild the system that we have in place, let alone add another, 50% capacity to support this AI and natural growth. Like it's just something that is going to be really difficult to do in the near future. So like I think that people's time and money is going to be better spent on doing narrow models that don't require the energy that like some AGI or massive chatbot is going to require.
Yeah, yeah, I 100% agree with that. But of course, we both know they're gonna push it and they're gonna keep
Yeah.
pushing and they're gonna keep trying and they're gonna I feel like with AI, they're gonna keep pushing and then they're gonna knock on the door that they don't really want open and AI is gonna answer and it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah. I read the other night on Twitter that right now 50% of the n- how do I say this? 50% of like the new GDP, the rising GDP in this country over the last year has been AI investment. So like
Yeah,
without investment in AI, we are 50% lower in our GDP, which is a massive number, which is why like
yeah.
it's easy for Trump to go on Twitter or wherever he goes and we have the best economy ever and normal people are like no we don't. Like what are you talking
Right.
about? Like I can't
Right.
like Turkey is up like 40% year over date than it was last year. And
Yeah.
it's like normal people are like no man, the economy is fucked. Like what are you talking about? But really it's like siloed off in these big companies that are getting massive investment for AI.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I 100% agree, man. I think, yeah, it looks good when you're at the top looking down, maybe, but when you're down here, it's not as fun.
Yeah, we're down here playing in the mud. You guys are up there, eating
Yeah,
pretty. We're down here rolling around in the
yeah,
slop going, "What the hell are you talking about?" And it's good.
yeah.
He's really doing the exact same thing that Biden did. Is, "Oh, the economy's great." And normal people are like, "No, it's not." "What are you
Right,
talking
right.
about?" And it's getting harder and harder for these people. Like one of the things that always makes me laugh is like they'll put out financial numbers quarterly or something like that. Oh, the economy was so great. We've got so many new jobs and unemployment's so low and blah, blah, blah. All these great numbers. And then like a month later, the revised numbers come out that shows like all these numbers were crazy, like overinflated and completely off. And
Yeah,
all of this was bullshit. But no, in the past, nobody saw the revised numbers because all of the
mm,
news agencies, the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal, would write articles about the numbers that they put out, and then when the revised numbers came out, like, it would just be pushed under the rug. But now that everybody's
yeah,
on Twitter, instead of, like, reading these legacy, media sites, like, they're seeing the real numbers. They're going, "Dude, you're full of shit."
yeah, yeah, they're seeing the real, man. I think that's one benefit of social media is even though there's some bad on there, there's some good too, man. I
Yeah,
think it helps.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
we're running out of time. You got any parting words for us? Anything else that I left out? Like, I don't feel like I asked you too many great questions. I didn't really
Oh no,
know
man.
what else
I
to
loved
ask
it.
about RPA.
No, no, no. There's really not that much. I mean, I kind of explained it. Like I said, it just RPA just means robotic process automation. It's just using software bots to handle repetitive computer tasks. So like data entry, um, copying data, filling forms. That's really what it's about.
Where do
So
people go if they wanna hit you up?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm on YouTube, LinkedIn. I have a Medium blog post. Kevin Mohair dash the process optimizer.
What do you do on YouTube?
Yeah, I post what I do. So I'll build a bot. They kind of go like it's a 1 star bot all the way up to four. Four is the hardest. So I just post bots that I work on. Sometimes they're four, sometimes they're three. It kind of rotates between those two, and I just show what I do.
Cool, man. Sounds good. Well, it was a pleasure talking with you. I wish you, all the, luck and success in the world. I hope you kill it, and, if you ever, wanna come back on and plug something or explain something new that you're doing, you free to hit me up anytime.
Cool, man. I appreciate you having me. We'll definitely do this again once I get in the industry, and then I'll break down, the real man. We'll come back and just talk
Yeah.
about whatever.
Yeah, absolutely, man, anytime, and, go watch that 3 Body Problem, it'll blow your fucking mind.
Oh yeah, I'm about to hop on that right now.
Alright, take it easy. Good night.
Cool.